Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, I have the pleasure once again to give another lecture to this very warm community, and this lecture will continue from last year, inshallah. Last week we touched upon and started the discussion of Shaf'at, intercession, and we said that intercession or Shaf'at is a form of pairing. The nature of this pairing we discussed to some degree, and we said that Shaf'at has to be acquired in this world. What happens in the hereafter, which is another domain of existence, which has nothing to do with physicality and matter, is merely a manifestation. It's merely a reflection of actions in this realm. That was the first point that we tried to cover. And then we reached this part of the discussion where what does forgiveness, what does Allah's mercy, what do these mean? Because the whole point of last week's discussion was to convey that what happens in the hereafter, matters that relate to the hereafter, are not arbitrary or conventional matters. They are not, as in Arabic they say, they are not i'tibarat. No, it's all haqa'iq. They're all realities, and these realities are manifestations of events that have occurred in this physical realm of existence. So nothing arbitrary or conventional is going to take place in the next, in the other realm of existence. And that's important to bear in mind in all matters of religion. There's no i'tibarat in the hereafter. And this point is a very delicate point, although we won't touch upon it here. But even fatherhood, motherhood, being a son, being a daughter, aunt, being the owner of a house, husband, wife, all these are i'tibarat. Okay? These are things that have been assigned conventionally in this physical realm of existence, and so they won't exist in the hereafter as we know them in this physical realm. There is no i'tibarat in the hereafter. Another discussion, and now is not the time to open this discussion up. Okay, now, so what does Allah's forgiveness mean? What does that mean? What does Allah's mercy mean? We're going to start now and continue with Imam Khomeini Rahmatullah's words, and this is where we ended last week. So, he says, after all, forgiveness vis-a-vis that soul whose identity and necessary emanation is fire and the establishment of fire, has no meaning. When a soul has acquired vice in this world and has incorporated that vice within oneself and has become in unity with that vice, and who is vice, forgiveness here has no meaning. Okay, forgiveness in the arbitrary meaning, the conventional forgiveness. It has no meaning here, because that person who has sinned has made himself or herself one and in unity with that vice. He or she is one with that vice. You are your actions. I don't want to go through all those verses again on tajassumul a'mal, embodiment of actions. We've gone through all that. With this community, we've touched upon this. And then Imam says, so what is this forgiveness? Imam says, isn't forgiveness rather tantamount So Imam Khomeini says, isn't forgiveness rather tantamount to the necessity of one's dispositions being realized? Forgiveness is when one's acquired dispositions are being realized on a par with its capacity and dictates, so that they actualize in their entirety via the embodiment of fire. Okay, isn't this forgiveness, Imam is saying? It's a rhetorical question. The answer is yes. Forgiveness is when one's inner incorporated actions are now being manifested as they've been acquired, with an ultimate end, with an ultimate objective to reach at the end. However, before reaching that objective, and it will be clear what the objective is in a minute, before reaching that objective, it has to follow suit. What does follow suit mean? It has to follow what the soul has acquired. All that has to come out. Imam is saying, isn't this coming out and reflection and manifestation? Isn't this forgiveness per se? That soul, that Imam continues, that soul that has become essentially darkened and contaminated, can it really be segregated from itself? Because we said, you are your actions. If it's evil, you are evil. If it's good and heavenly, you are heaven. Can you be segregated from yourself by someone just saying arbitrarily and conventionally with i'tibarat, I forgive you, and then that's it? Of course not. Or rather, do we interpret forgiveness in such cases as the finalization and realization of one's merit of punishment? Mercy too bears the meaning of the realization of one's meriting punishment. As we said, it's a cause and effect, takweeni, natural process here. And forgiveness and mercy per se, as objective realities, entail that unfolding of the vice that the soul has acquired. And this is forgiveness per se. This is Allah's mercy per se. Why do we call it Allah's mercy? Why do we call it forgiveness per se? Because one will reach a destination through this process. If there was no such process, one would never have reached it, because there is no i'tibarat in the hereafter. Then Imam continues, if you ask, so what is this mercy and forgiveness of Allah mentioned in the Quran so much? Isn't it about Allah putting aside our sins? If I can add in brackets, in an arbitrary fashion, in a conventional fashion. So what is this forgiveness in the Holy Quran? Ya Ghaffar, Ya Ghafoor. Both of these words, these terms, refer to Allah being all forgiving. Although Ghaffar, Allah is all forgiving quantitatively, whereas Ghafoor, Allah is all forgiving qualitatively. One may commit one sin in one's life, or he or she hasn't committed a lot of sins. They only committed one sin, for example, but that was qualitatively disastrous. Or maybe it wasn't even one sin, it was one error, but qualitatively it was not befitting for such a person with such a status to commit such an error. Here one's dhikr is Ya Ghafoor. But for people like me, where you sin a lot, you commit a lot of Sharia sins, not Tariqah sins like in the previous case. You may commit a lot of Sharia sins. Here you really say Ya Ghaffar. You haven't reached the status to be in unity with Allah's attribute Ya Ghafoor. The names of Allah, all these have different meanings. It all means all forgiving, but in different contexts. For example, Ya Sabur and Ya Sabbar, and many other names of Allah, there are differences in meaning. If you ask, so what is this mercy and forgiveness of Allah mentioned in the Quran so much? Isn't it about Him putting aside our sins? Imam continues, my reply will be, we have previously said that Allah's forgiveness bears objectivity and reality. It's a real matter. The same goes for Allah's mercy. When we say we are all drowned in Allah's mercy, this includes the order of the cosmos, the physical realm of existence, with its waves of mercy. Water, air, intellect, Quran, traditions, food, clothing, sun, moon are all mercy per se. In this realm, in this physical realm of existence, these are just some of the examples of mercy per se. And all these examples mentioned are reality. It's a real thing. And then Imam says, each and every person is drowned in Allah's mercy based on their own merit, based on their own spiritual status quo. You are drowned in that mercy. But it's all a question of merit. Each to their own. How much did you earn? Over there, meaning in the hereafter, also one's rahmah, one's mercy is heaven per se. Rahmah in this world is something, rahmah in the other realm of existence, in the hereafter, is heaven per se. Or the termination and realization per se of the darknesses and merit of punishment based on one's self-acquired dispositions, and this burning and therefore removal of the veils of darkness is forgiveness per se. Look, it's a question of termination and realization of what one deserves, what one earned. And if it's negative, it will involve burning, not physical burning. You will be in unity with that burning. You will be in unity with that hell. You will be hell. Like in your dreams, for example, those dreams are a product of you. You're in unity with that. However, that burning will entail, because it's a question of realization of what you earned, it will entail burning, which entails this removal of your veils, removal of those veils of darkness that you earned. Once they are eliminated, then heaven is awaiting you. And if it's either heaven awaiting you, or it will be a hell, because eternal hell is a reality too. Eternal damnation and punishment, that it's an area of discussion and controversy. The Urafa don't accept it on the whole, although Ayatollah Jawadi Amali does accept it, but many of the Urafa don't. So once the removal of those darknesses arises, then you can go into heaven, especially if you believed in La ilaha illallah to whatever degree. But you've sinned also. This removal of the veils of darkness, this burning that results, is forgiveness, is mercy per se, with this objective in mind. With heaven, or in relation to those who can't await heaven, it's that they'll still be in hell, but there'll be no burning as such. Although that requires another discussion altogether, which inshallah during the month of Muharram I'll speak about that. This is the meaning, Imam says, of traditions that describe the manner of Qiyamah and the last moments of death and Barzakh, i.e., man starts encountering the pains of the last moments, which is on a par with one's true merit acquired in this dunya, and punishment decreases over time via this affliction of Sakaratul Maut, and from there one enters Barzakh, afflicted with the pressure of the grave. See, one keeps on entering different forms of punishment. At the same time, this alleviates. So in this physical realm of existence, we are surrounded and drowned in Allah's rahmah and mercy, in this physical realm of existence. Each person, to their own merit, uses these mercies, but to their own, on a par with their own spiritual status quo. It may be high, it may be low. If it's high, this will be manifested as heaven in the hereafter, which is mercy per se. If it's low, on a low scale, it may involve burning. It may involve punishment. A punishment where even a single moment we're not ready to exchange, for 100 years of material gain in this world, for example. No one, if they knew the truth, would say, I'm willing to undergo a moment of punishment in the hereafter and just give me 100 years of material prosperity. No one. So never underestimate when I speak, when I say punishment and just quickly pass by, it's because I want to try to finish within a certain time frame. Don't underestimate the severity of punishment. Okay, so if you use the rahmah in this physical realm, the Quran, the sun, the moon, and so on and so forth, on a low scale, with a low merit, that's going to be manifested and reflected and unfolded before you as burning. But this burning, which isn't a physical burning, it's an immaterial burning, you are burning, the soul is burning, has a good objective at the end. Even though one moment of it, we have to do everything to escape a single moment of that burning. Because when we say years of burning, this word years, we don't know how much it means in the hereafter. There is no time there, as we know of here. So, but that burning is rahmah too. How can it be rahmah? Because we're burning. It's rahmah in the sense that after the elimination and the disintegration of those veils of darkness, then you will reach your heaven. That inner light that we spoke about in the last lecture, and we'll speak about here in a minute, it will appear. Okay. Then Imam continues, as has been alluded to in the ahadith, in the traditions by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, that barzakh is yours alone, and from there starts the terror of the day of Qiyamah. إِذَا مَاتَ الْإِنسَانِ فَهُوَ فِي قِيَامَتِهِ. Although this tradition I've added in brackets here. The point is, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is saying barzakh is yours. Many people have taken this tradition, meaning that there's no shafa'ah in barzakh. And they're right, in a sense, that since most people are contaminated with sin, there's going to be some degree of burning, no matter who you are, on the whole. And before shafa'ah even becomes a reality, there's going to be some burning involved. So Imam here is saying, look, in barzakh is yours alone. As if he's saying, don't expect our shafa'ah too early on. Yes, we will grant you shafa'ah as a result of what you did in this world. However, it wasn't good enough. Our shafa'ah will come later on. Barzakh is yours. It's you and your actions. So he says that barzakh is yours alone, and from there starts the terror of the day of resurrection and the encountering of the stations in the hereafter, which number 50. In the tradition it speaks of 50 stations that one has to undergo in the hereafter. Then Imam Khomeini says, And so here, now then Imam Khomeini says, and now this is the crux of the matter now, so pay attention here. One does not know in which of these stations the fire and burning will purify the soul. Because we said that the burning removes the veil of darknesses acquired by the soul, incorporated within the soul. This burning will filter out that, will purify the soul. But we don't know which of these stations, those 50 stations in hell, the fire and burning will purify the soul and eliminate those vicious immaterial dispositions and burn out and put an end to the veils of darkness, so that as a result the light within one shines forth, thus acquiring one's share of Shaf'at. This was a very important section of Imam's speech, or writing rather. This was very important. We don't know when in this process of burning, in which of those stations, when the soul will be purified. We don't know when those vicious immaterial, look, it's not a material reality, the hereafter. We don't know in which of these stations the vicious immaterial dispositions that we've acquired for ourselves will be eliminated, will be burnt out. Because once they're burnt out and the veils of darknesses are put an end to, the result is, Imam says, as a result, the light within, because you've done good actions too, you're a Muslim, you believed in La ilaha illallah. As a result, the light within, when all the burning and purification process has come to an end, and we don't know when it will come to an end, the light within one shines forth. Remember Shaf'at, that pairing with the light of Walaya? The light within one shines forth, thus acquiring one's share of Shaf'at, Imam says. If you want to paraphrase, thus acquiring one's merit to be paired with Walaya. Allahu Akbar. These are important. These are important matters. This is intercession. Yes. All these, Imam says, the Sakaratul Maut, Barzakh, hell, the 50 stations, are to filter out hell during the process, so that one's ultimate fate will not be hell. This is the whole purpose now. It's all about filtering out the hell you've created for yourself. Why? So that you can pair up with Walaya. Why? Do you want this hell to be filtered out? So that your ultimate destination, although you've had hell in Sakaratul Maut, although you've experienced hell in Barzakh, although you've experienced hell in station 1, 2, 3 until a certain point, but the whole purpose of this burning, this immaterial burning, is to filter out hell, to purify the soul, the immaterial soul, so that your ultimate fate not be hell. Shaf'at arises during all this and before one's entrance into hell, where one will reside there. Before that residency in hell, that establishment of you in hell, Shaf'at arises. When does Shaf'at arise? When the veils of darkness, the vicious attributes are all burnt out. Then the light within you, which was covered by those veils of darkness, will shine, pair up with Walaya, with Tawheed, and then you will come out of hell and now you're in heaven. And then in some traditions, and the Sunnis also have these traditions, it says after all the intercessors come, the last entity that remains is called Arhamur Rahimin. In some traditions it says Ar-Rahman. Now this is a very delicate tradition, and Ibn Arabi, very important Muslim Sufi, he's touched upon this. Ibn Arabi uses verses of the Quran very delicately to interpret this tradition, although it's a separate discussion, and I'll touch upon it another time inshallah, but I want to finish this discussion here. Anyway, then Imam continues, if you ask, now this is the questioner, a questioner, for example, we're presupposing a questioner asking this question. If you ask, if this is the case, what's the meaning of dua when its recommendation even passes the threshold of darura, dua being recommended so much that it's as if it's one of the fundamentals of religion, one of the fundamentals. So what is dua then? If you've explained this mercy and forgiveness in such a way, what is the meaning of dua? My reply, Imam Khomeini says, is to the questioner, what have you intended? What do you mean by the term dua? Is it tantamount to the mere requests that we exercise to one another, and thus asking for conventional pardoning after conventional sins? We have stated before that the sins of the day of resurrection are not arbitrary, and so pardoning will not be arbitrary either. Rather, dua is made up of a reality, and its meaning has been specified in the traditions that say du'as, they are ibadah per se. Ad-du'a huwa al-ibadah. So here, now Imam wants to say, don't think dua is just something, someone committing a sin and then arbitrarily asking for pardoning and doing dua in that sense. No, no, no. The reality of dua, let's go back one step. What is the reality of dua, Imam says? He says dua is ibadah. Then he continues, yes, our du'as are ibadah and will save us from the fire and torment. But, what kind of ibadah is this dua that you have when you utter, O Allah, forgive me, when you are at the same time cut off from all else and focus all one's attention to the divine courtyard and have Allah's fear within your heart? It is this state that will now grant you light and make you attain to the potential of Shaf'at. That is the dua which is a reality, not just arbitrarily asking for Allah to forgive you. It's a dua that when you ask Allah, at the same time within there's a state that is actualizing within the soul, a state where you've cut off from all else. You focus all your attention to Allah's divine courtyard. You have Allah's fear in your heart when you do the dua, and this will grant you that light, not the arbitrary du'as that we have in mind, that there's no inner movement whatsoever when we make these du'as. Then Imam says sometimes it may even be the case that the effect of du'as and the enlightening of the hearts be greater for the weak person's soul than the effect of salat. Sometimes a weak person may not do salat properly, and then salat is just a minimum that they do with no focus whatsoever. They won't benefit from their salat. But this same person, sometimes it happens that they get connected to the hereafter, and they pray and they supplicate and they do du'as at the bottom of their heart, whilst having that fear of Allah, whilst being cut off from everything. They don't have it during salat when they should do, and that's why Imam calls them weak, because during salat there's no problem there. There's no focus whatsoever. The adhan is being read, the iqamah is being read, everyone is still talking, thinking of the dunya, and then Allahu Akbar, Takbiratul Ihram, then they very kindly, now they're supposed to enter the prayer, now they start entering the prayer. But there's no fear, there's no cut off. there's no cutting off from all else, there's no focus and attention to the divine courtyard. That kind of salat has no light within one's soul, and that person is weak. But that same person, sometimes because of these burdens, they cut off from everything, then they pray, supplicate before Allah, and they have fear of Allah in one's heart, and they focus one's attention upon the divine courtyard. There, that dua has value, that dua has light, that is ibadah. Otherwise, no, that salat has no light. Remember the tradition we mentioned in last week's lecture, that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, those who treat their salat lightly, they can't reach our intercession. Look, because there's nothing inside, they've accumulated no light within themselves with this salat, because they treated the salat lightly. The iqamah was being read, they treated it lightly. Adhan was being read, they treated it lightly. Then the congregational leader is now leading the prayer. They're thinking of all the day's events now. They're treating it lightly. Or if then they don't do jama'ah, they do it at home, for example, they pray the last minute. Everything, they treat it all lightly. There's no focus there. That salat has very little value. It only has fiqhi value. There's no irfani value attached to it. So, here, but that same weak person though, there are times, throughout the day, throughout the year, sometimes they feel connected, they supplicate. And they really focus on Allah. They really cut off from all else. That has value. Then Imam says, in short, recalling Allah in du'as plays its role in the heart. It has an effect upon the heart. And the wisdom behind the element of repetition in our actions is to enlighten the heart, and for these actions to be imprinted upon the heart, making Allah's remembrance second nature, and thus in unity with the soul. Once it becomes second nature, it becomes in unity with the soul. You are your actions. So when it is said to say tasbihat of Alhamdulillah, or La ilaha illallah, or Subhanallah, this many number of times, and so on and so forth, this is not without purpose. Because the whole purpose of repeating and repeating and repeating is that eventually you feel focused, you cut off from all else, you recall Allah, and this becomes imprinted upon the heart, and you've acquired light. This is the philosophy of repetition in rituals. It's for you to accumulate, it facilitates that accumulation of light within, which enables you to pair up with wilaya in the hereafter. And then Imam continues, the 5 daily prayers with its repeated units, together with the mustahab prayers during the day, isn't all this so that one's essence be in communion with Allah's remembrance and names, so that it manifests inner light within one? It's a rhetorical question. The answer, yes. Then Imam continues, it is possible, Imam says, that Shaf'at be realized the moment one's last breath ends, i.e., where the light of Waliyullah instantaneously marries with the light that the mu'min possesses within oneself at the time of death. Although according to Imam Sadiq's alayhi salam tradition, it's going to be a minority of people who undergo this, where they reach shafa'ah the time they pass away. On physical death, they have shafa'ah. But this was as a result of that light, the light of the fitrah being unveiled, being open, being pure, being in a pristine crystal condition. Otherwise, if it's covered under the veils of darkness, there's no sign of shafa'ah yet. So Imam says that is possible. Then Imam says, or that shafa'ah may arise in Imam continues, this Shaf'at may arise in Barzakh, or at the day of resurrection, or in one of its stations, or after being burnt on the stations of hell, that is, or after being burnt for a period of time in hell. Shaf'at, we don't know when it will happen. It depends on you and your actions in this realm. In any case, Imam continues, one must not feel arrogant or complacent with a Shaf'at that one has yet to learn. If you don't know what Shaf'at is, there's no place for you to be complacent and say, I am a Shia, we have Shaf'at, and then you're arrogant, you're complacent, you think everything will be sorted out. It's not like that. After all, as we have said, Allah may even not grant permission at all, or if Allah does, He does so after a long period of time. It's all under Allah's hands. He may not even grant Shaf'at, and if He does, it may take a long time whose single moment no one is ready to experience in this world. Never take it lightly. Moreover, it's even possible that one may forget everything, including the divine names of the intercessors. What does that mean? Imam says, don't you see that with the slightest burden that arises for somebody, he or she forgets simple things and will say, X event distracted my mind. Or when acquiring the measles, for example, they will forget many things. Now Imam says this with an intention in mind, and that is, he says, isn't it possible that the sakaratul maut, fear of death, loneliness in the grave, etc., etc., make man forget all things, including one's own divine intercessors' names, thus disenabling one to request anyone, saying, Ya Muhammad, Ya Ali. One will forget all these names. The sakaratul maut, the barzakh, the loneliness, all those difficult scenarios that rise. If we weren't strong in this world, we're going to forget everything there. As we forget in this world with the smallest of illnesses. And then one will enter hell and burn towards the end, after one's inner impurities have been burnt off and one has become pure. Now the time will arrive for the Tawheedi light. That Tawheed that you've acquired in this world, that light can now come out after you were burnt for a period of time. That Tawheedi light, the time will arrive for the Tawheedi light, which one had forgotten about, and which was concealed and buried deep down one's soul, to shine forth. And the owner of hell will then inculcate the names of the intercessors. This is a reality. If your belief in the guiders of humanity in this world was weak, when you face the horror in the hereafter, you're going to forget even the names of those guiders of humanity, the guides of humanity. You're going to forget them. And then after a period of burning, only then, when the Tawheedi light is unfolded and unveiled, then you recall them. And then you will benefit. The light will come out, it will be paired with Walaya. It will be paired with Shafa'at. And so Imam ends with this paragraph. He says, and so these divine trends and customs and signs should not be interpreted futilely. If things were to be realized as the Manbaris dictate, those who speak from the pulpit, those who regard Shaf'at as something conventional and arbitrary, with a simple "you have been forgiven, everything will be deleted," if things were to be realized as the Mambaris dictate, then the prophets and imams wouldn't have put themselves through so much struggle. The intercessors themselves wouldn't have been so fearful for the people, and wouldn't have emphasized the fears lying ahead. If this was going to be a conventional matter from the very beginning, why are the imams the number one people who are worrying for their community, for their ummah? There would be no need for them to be so fearful for me and you. And they keep on emphasizing the fears that lie ahead. Why would they need to do that? They could just come and say, "You be forgiven, that's it. All your sins will be forgiven." We don't believe in this form of intercession though, because we are not, in quotes, Christian. And this is important. Intercession, Shaf'at, is to be earned here, in this world, by following the guides of humanity. Who are the guides of humanity? Whatever is a guide to humanity, because whatever is a manifestation of Allah's attributes. Nothing is Allah less. But some entities manifest Allah more than others, and the imams are the complete manifestations of Allah's attributes. They have no independence whatsoever for themselves. It's all Allah at work. كل يوم هو في شأن هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن. Yes, different entities, they manifest Allah more. Ultimately, the 14 Ma'sumin, the prophets, all prophets, they are manifestations of Allah's attributes. Yes, the Shuhada, the true Shuhada, many people who didn't die as a Shaheed, but they were Shaheed in the Irfani sense. Many people who had a lot of taqwa, all these, since they manifest Allah to some degree, they have a hand in Shafa'ah to some degree. But it all comes back to you and your actions, and your abidance and obedience to the guides of humanity in the general sense of the term. How did you do it? That will be manifested. You'll be resurrected with that. For Shafa'ah, which is a reality according to all schools of thought, Allah has to grant that permission though. Allah has to grant that permission. Now one can also go directly to Allah. It doesn't make sense to say, let's go directly to Allah rather through the manifestations of Allah. It's one and the same reality. These manifestations of Allah, they have no independence whatsoever. It's all Allah manifesting. But the reason why we go, because they're guides of humanity. We want to get instructions from them to reach Allah, because they are in communion with Allah due to their exaltedness and greatness. Now we want to do it. How? We have to follow their instructions and prescriptions. Once we do that, if we succeed to reach Allah in reality in this world, that's wonderful. If not, that communion will arise, but over time in the hereafter, and that requires another discussion in how that will happen. Okay, inshallah, that's the end of this discussion on intercession, with one dimension which I've tried to open up in this dimension, in this discussion on intercession, although the discussion on intercession has many other dimensions too. The theologians may focus on another dimension. This is one dimension which the Urafa focus on. It's important because it tells you what the nature, the essence of intercession is. It's of no use to know that intercession is a reality according to the Sunni school or the Shia school whatsoever, when you don't know what the essence of it entails. Okay, thank you very much. All the best inshallah. Iltimas dua wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi tahirin.